Hey guys, it's the last day of July, so I'm going to be filming my July wrap-up. Now for this month, I'm going to show you all the books that I read this month, and I'm going to do a little bit on what my thoughts were of them. I don't know if I'm going to do this every month, but this month I'm going to just, I feel like it. So in July, I read 11 books, which is really, really good. I've never read that many in a month before. Last month I read 9, and I thought that was really good, and this month I managed to squeeze in 11. I just finished the last one like a few hours ago. So I'm really happy. So this might be a long video, so just bear with me. So the first book I read this month, Eve by Anna Carey. Now this book takes place a few years into the future where this deadly plague has wiped out most of the Earth's population, and our main character, Eve, is currently at this boarding school for girls. They're completely separated from boys, and they're told that boys aren't trustworthy and everything. And then on the night before graduation, Eve discovers this shocking secret of what happens to all the graduates. So she runs away, and of course she meets this boy, and she doesn't trust him at first because she's been told all her life, don't trust boys, they're bad. So this book didn't really leave too much of an impression on me. Like, I couldn't really connect with the characters, and I didn't really like the writing style, which usually doesn't matter. I usually kind of tend to not be bothered by a writing style, but this one just kind of annoyed me, and the premise really sounded interesting, and I still have some questions, so I may read the sequel, but I'm not sure yet. And overall, I gave it a 3.5 out of 5 stars. The next book I read in July was Lock and Key by Sarah Dessen. This is definitely my favorite Sarah Dessen book so far. This book is about a girl named Ruby who goes to live with her sister and her sister's husband after her mother abandons her. And she's kind of really upset about it because she has to go to a different school and make new friends, and she has to leave all her friends behind, but she's almost 18, and she really wishes that she could live on her own and everything, but she can't, so. But of course, naturally, there's a cute guy next door, and so she meets him, and they start to develop a friendship, and throughout the whole thing, their relationship develops. I really liked Ruby as a character. She kind of had a troubled past, but so pretty much everything that she did was kind of understandable, even when she was kind of making bad decisions, but it wasn't too bad, and I really enjoyed this book, and I gave it a 5 out of 5 stars. Next book I read in July was Ruby Red by Kirsten Gier. Now this book is about time travel. It focuses on a girl named Gwen, who is part of this family where they have a time travel gene, and it travels through the female line. So it's not every generation, but there's been like predictions on to who has the gene, and so they think it's Gwen's cousin, Charlotte, that has the gene. So she's been training all of her life to learn how to try time travel, and then one day it turns out that Gwen actually is the one that has the gene, so she unexpectedly time travels, and of course she's terrified because she wasn't ever prepared for this, so suddenly she's thrust into this new world and everything. I really liked Gwen. She was very realistic because unlike some protagonists, she was really terrified to be thrown into this new world. Like in the Mortal Instruments, you know, Clary is kind of just, she finds out she's a shadow hunter and she's like, oh, okay, I guess that's what I'll do. And she never really seems scared by it and everything, but you can tell this whole time Gwen doesn't want this to have happened. She wants to just live a normal life. And so overall, I gave this book a 4 out of 5 stars. The next book I read was Along for the Ride by Sarah Dessen. This has been my least favorite Sarah Dessen book so far, but it was still really good nonetheless. This story is about a girl named Auden, and this is before her freshman year of college. After she graduates high school, she goes to live with her dad and his new wife and their newborn daughter. She's an insomniac because when her parents were in the midst of their divorce, they would argue all the time and they'd keep her up at night. So now she just kind of has this habit of not sleeping through the night. So she has a really random sleep schedule. Of course, she meets this boy, and he's also an insomniac. They kind of hang out together and everything, and of course they develop a friendship and everything, you know. But I really did enjoy this book, and I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. The next book I read was for the Booktubeathon, and it was A Midsummer Night's Dream by William Shakespeare. This was my first Shakespeare comedy, and I really enjoyed it. It's a typical Shakespeare comedy. It's kind of hard to explain, but basically, you know, there's all these people, and all this crazy stuff is happening, and all these misunderstandings, and It was really, really weird, and actually it was kind of a nice change to not be reading a tragedy and not have every single person die at the end, which is kind of annoying. But I really, really enjoyed it, and I want to read more of his comedies in the future, and I gave this a 5 out of 5 stars. The next book I read was Crank by Ellen Hopkins. Now I picked this for my 500 plus page challenge because I figured it would be really easy to get through because it's, as you probably know, it's written in verse. Even though it is over 500 pages, it was really quick to get through. Basically this story is about a girl named Christina, and one summer she goes to stay with her dad for a few days, and while she's there she gets introduced to what she calls the monster, which is also known as crank or meth. And it's basically about her struggle with her addiction and everything. It was way different from any book I've ever read before, and I didn't really necessarily like the story. It was kind of just weird, and it was just like, it was very dark and everything, but I thought that it had a really strong message about drugs and the consequences of doing drugs and everything. So I think it's something that everyone should read. And overall I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. The next book I read was also for the Booktubeathon. It was my reread, and it was The Hidden Staircase by Carolyn Keene. Now this was one of my favorite books when I was a kid, and so I decided I wanted to reread it for the Booktubeathon. It's not very long, so I figured it wouldn't take me very long. It only took me about a day to get through it. But I remember when I was younger how it like really terrified me. I was like really scared. Like it just, I almost didn't want to read anymore because this was the first one I ever read. So this time I was really interested to see if it would still be kind of scary to me. And it was kind of creepy at some points, but it really wasn't as bad as I thought when I was little. But it was really interesting, and a lot of the stuff that happened I had totally forgotten about, so it was really cool rereading it. And I gave this a 5 out of 5 stars. Next book I read was Specials by Scott Westerfeld. Now I'm not going to say too much about this since it's the third book in a series and I don't want to spoil the first two. Well, as you probably know, I read Uglies a couple months back and I really, really loved it, and then I read Pretties and I pretty much hated it. Like, compared to Uglies, it was just, I didn't like it at all. So I was really hoping this would be better, and it was, but it still wasn't nearly as good as Uglies. But it was okay. It was better than Pretties, and I think I'll read extras soon, even though I've been told it's a different storyline, so I hope that I like it more. And overall, I gave Specials a 3.5 out of 5 stars. The next book I read was Clockwork Angel by Cassandra Clare. This book is about a girl named Tessa Gray who goes to London to visit her brother, and when she arrives there she gets captured by the Dark Sisters who kidnap her, and then she finds out that she has this power to transform into other people. While she's in her prison, the Shadowhunters come and rescue her and bring her to the Institute. So she's introduced to the Shadowhunter world, and she meets two best friends who are Shadowhunters, Will and Jem. I really liked the characters in this book. Will and Jem are the two, of the love triangle, and I've never been so torn before in a love triangle. I'd be for Will, and then I'd be for Jem, and then I'd be for Will, and then I'd be for Jem. And I was talking to one of my friends, and she says, yep, it's just gonna get worse in the next one. And I feel like Clockwork Prince is gonna tear my little heart to pieces. But I'm really looking forward to reading it. But anyway, I really liked Tessa's character because she was really likable, unlike some of the characters in the Mortal Instruments. Clary. And I'm really excited to continue with this series, and overall I gave this a 4.5 out of 5 stars. The next book I read was Pivot Point by Casey West. Now this was a really kind of a random book I picked up. It was only $2 from Amazon on the Kindle. But basically this book is about this girl named Addie, and she lives in this compound for people with special powers, and Addie has the power to look into the future when she has to make a decision and see the outcome of both decisions. Her parents tell her that they're getting a divorce and that she needs to choose who she wants to live with. So naturally, she searches the future to see who she wants to live with. And both futures, she meets a guy, and all this crazy stuff happens and everything, but I'm not going to tell you what she chooses, but it was really good. The world was really interesting, and I really liked Addie as a character. I thought that she made really good decisions. I mean, obviously she could see into the future and see if her decision's gonna be good or bad, but I thought she was very mature. And overall, I gave this a 5 out of 5 stars. The next book I read was Lola and the Boy Next Door by Stephanie Perkins. Now, this book is about a girl named Lola who has a boyfriend who her parents don't approve of because he's older than her and he's in a band and everything. While she's walking the dog one day, she notices that her next door neighbors are moving back. And the boy in the family, she and Lola used to be really good friends and everything, and they unexpectedly moved away, and he kind of didn't tell her or anything, and she thought he just didn't like her anymore, so it kind of really made her upset, and then she sees that they've moved back, and she's really kind of, oh no, they're moved back and everything. She ends up making a friendship again with Cricket, who's the boy next door, and it's really cute. But I didn't like Lola's character as much as I liked Anna, and to me it wasn't as good as Anna and the French Kiss. But I did really like it. Possibly one of my favorite aspects was the fact that Cricket's twin sister, Calliope, was a figure skater, and that's why they had to move and everything. And I'm sure you do not know this about me, but I follow figure skating a lot. Like, I'm always following the events and finding out who's ranked and everything, and it's an Olympic year again this year, so I'm really excited, yeah. Anyway, and all the figure skating terms that they talked about in here, it was like, yeah, I know about that. Oh yeah, I know what that is. It was really cool. Overall, I gave this book 4.5 out of 5 stars. So that's all the books I read for July. Let me know what you read in July in the comments down below, and I'll see you again next time. Goodbye! And overall, I gave this a 5.5.